My name is Dr. Sabrina Raman. Most people call me Sabi. I'm 32 years old. I have a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. I've published papers, presented posters, lived in labs, survived grant committees, defended a dissertation in front of professors who smiled like they were watching a trial. And for most of my life, I believed one thing was true. If I worked hard enough, if I became undeniable, I would finally be safe. Safe from being dismissed, safe from being patronized, safe from the quiet little doubts people throw at you when they don't think you belong. But I learned something late, something painful. In my world, pharmaceutical quality control, being questioned isn't disrespect, it's oxygen. It's the job. And I suffocated the very people who were trying to help me breathe. This is the story of how I became the face of progress, and then became the headline everyone whispered about. And how the worst part wasn't losing my career. The worst part was realizing too late that my biggest enemy didn't have a name like Jake or Tom or the patriarchy. My biggest enemy was the version of myself that couldn't stand being wrong. Let me take you back to the beginning. Not the beginning of the disaster, the beginning of the belief. Thanksgiving. My parents' house smelled like butter and roasted herbs. My mom had spent the whole day moving like a general in a kitchen, staging plates like she was preparing for war. My dad sat at the head of the table like he still believed the world ran on calm authority. My brother Mark was there, of course. Mark is a software engineer, the kind of guy who wears a hoodie to a family dinner and still somehow acts like he's the smartest person in the room. He's not evil. That matters, because if he was evil, it would be easier. But he wasn't. He was just Mark. And after the first round of compliments about the food, after the polite updates about traffic and weather, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me. So, he said, casual, almost bored. How's the new job? They keeping you busy? It was such a normal question, such a harmless question. And I felt something spark in my chest like a match against gasoline, because I had heard that question 1,000 times. Not from him necessarily, but from people like him. Men who asked in a way that felt like they were checking the stability of your foundation, as if your success was a temporary structure that might collapse if someone tapped it. I put my fork down. The sound of metal against ceramic felt loud, and I smiled. The kind of smile that says, I'm about to hurt you, but I'll call it education. Why does everyone talk to me like I need monitoring? I said. Mark blinked. What? You asked if they're keeping me busy, I said. Like I'm a child at summer camp. My mom's eyes flicked up. My dad inhaled like he wanted to interrupt, but didn't know where to start. Mark laughed once, awkward. Sabi, no, I said. Let's actually talk about it. Mark's smile faded. I literally asked how it's going. And that's the problem, I said. He stared at me. My heart was racing. I could feel it in my throat. The table felt smaller. The air felt tighter. You write code for a dating app, I said. Yet somehow you feel qualified to comment on my work in pharmaceuticals. Mark's face stiffened. I wasn't commenting. I asked a question. I leaned forward. That's exactly the kind of benevolent sexism we talk about in the literature, I said. Men unconsciously try to diminish women's success by framing it like we're fragile. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. My father cleared his throat. Sabrina, honey. No, I said louder than I meant to. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not swallowing it anymore. Mark held up his hands. Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to. But I was already past apology. Because it wasn't really about him. It was about everything he represented in my head. Later that night, after dessert and forced laughter and my mom pretending the tension wasn't sitting between us like a knife, I went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and felt righteous, like I had defended something sacred. I posted an Instagram story, a photo of me standing by the window in my childhood room. The streetlight outside made me look like a silhouette. Dramatic. Poetic. The caption read, Family gatherings where women's achievements are subtly questioned. Within minutes, comments, hearts, DMs. Stay strong, queen. Ugh, men always do that. You're inspiring. I felt this, and I soaked it up. Not because I was shallow, because I was hungry. Because for once, the world felt like it was on my side. I didn't know then that this hunger would become a problem. Because hunger doesn't stop when you're full. Hunger becomes a habit. And habits, if you don't question them, become your personality. 6 months earlier, I'd landed the job I'd been dreaming about. Farmtech Industries, a pharmaceutical manufacturer specializing in sterile injectables and antibiotics, clean rooms, HEPA filters, aseptic gowning, environmental monitoring, validation protocols that could make a person's brain melt. I was hired as QC manager. Quality control. If you've never worked in pharma, let me explain something. Operations wants to ship. Sales wants to sell. Executives want timelines. QC is the last gate. QC is the word no standing in front of profit. QC is patient safety on paper. And people resent you for it until they need you. The previous QC manager was Carol. Carol had run the department for 12 years. She was older, steady, careful. She would sit in meetings with engineers and review data collaboratively. When I heard that, I didn't hear collaborative, I heard compromising. I heard letting them explain her job to her. Jessica and Priya, two younger women in QC, seemed to agree with me. They'd come to HR with complaints about a male-dominated culture, about being talked over, about being dismissed, about having their concerns translated by male engineers as if women needed a male narrator for their own intelligence. And HR Director Vanessa? Vanessa was progressive in the loudest way. Posters about empowerment, emails about inclusion, social posts about workplace feminism. Vanessa sat Carol down and said, "Your management style isn't supportive of women on your team." Carol pushed back. "I treat everyone the same." Vanessa replied, "And that's the problem. Equality isn't equity." Carol took early retirement, and then FarmTech hired me. In my interview, I said all the right things. I talked about boundaries. I talked about dismantling male-dominated STEM spaces. I talked about creating psychological safety. Vanessa loved it. The executives loved it because it sounded modern. And I loved it because it made me feel like my career had purpose beyond spreadsheets. I walked into FarmTech on day one with my badge clipped to my blazer and my hair pulled back like I was ready for battle. I told myself I was stepping into leadership. But if I'm being honest, I was stepping into something else too. Vindication. The first month went smoothly. I held one-on-ones. I listened to the team. I nodded at their stories about being dismissed. I let them feel seen. And then came the first batch review meeting. We were approving an antibiotic tablet batch. Routine, boring, data heavy, exactly my comfort zone. I was mid-sentence, pointing at a trend line on the slide, when Jake Morrison spoke up. Jake was 45, senior QC engineer, 20 years in pharma, not flashy, not political, the kind of guy who wears a simple button down and knows every SOP number by memory. He interrupted me. "Sabi, before we release this," he said, "should we investigate the OS result?" The room went quiet in the way rooms go quiet when they sense danger. OOS. Out of specification. If an OS is real, it's a big deal. But this one wasn't real. It was a single data point that had already been invalidated through standard process, within acceptable variance, instrument drift, all documented. I had reviewed it, thoroughly. And in that instant, I didn't hear a technical question. I heard a challenge. I felt every eye on me. And I felt something deeper too, an old familiar fear. If I let him question me publicly, I lose authority. So I smiled, and I went cold. "Jake," I said, "I reviewed the data thoroughly. It's within acceptable variance." He didn't back off. "Right," he said, "but SOP 412 says..." I cut him off. "Jake," I said, "I'm aware of our SOPs. I literally wrote the new ones. Are you suggesting I don't know how to read data?" His eyes widened slightly, confused. "No, I'm just..." Jessica jumped in like she'd been waiting. "Why are you questioning her?" Jessica said. "Would you have interrupted Carol like that?" Priya nodded. "It does feel like you're explaining her job to her." I felt the room tilt in my favor. I said it out loud like a final stamp. "This is textbook mansplaining." Jake stared at me, and for the first time, I saw something on his face that I misread. I thought it was guilt. It was actually caution. The meeting ended awkwardly. That afternoon, I emailed Vanessa. I wrote a detailed complaint. Jake publicly questioned my competence. It created an unsafe environment. This is patriarchal gatekeeping. Vanessa called Jake into her office. Jake sent me an apology email. Professional, clean, short. "I'm sorry if my comments came across as questioning your competence. That wasn't my intent." Word spread. Not the apology, the consequence. Question Dr. Raman and HR will appear. From that moment, the temperature in meetings changed. Jake and Tom, another senior engineer, stopped speaking as much. When I presented data, they nodded. When I asked for comments, they said, "Looks good." At first, it felt like respect. Then it started to feel like relief, because I had spent years being questioned, being doubted, being corrected. Now the questions were gone. I told myself, progress. I told myself, cultural transformation. I didn't ask the more dangerous question, what happens to quality when nobody challenges anything? I held a department meeting 3 weeks later. I presented collaborative culture guidelines. I said things like, we're dismantling old patriarchal quality systems. Quality doesn't have to mean constant interrogation. It can mean trust. Jessica added, the old QC culture was designed by and for men. Derek, a younger engineer, spoke up. I've been reading Invisible Women, he said. It really opened my eyes. I smiled at him. I love that, I said. Jake and Tom exchanged glances but said nothing, and I took their silence as surrender. I was wrong. 3 months in, we launched a new antibiotic production line. Sterile injectables for hospitals. High stakes. Sterile injectables have the strictest requirements. Validation, sterility assurance, environmental monitoring, everything has to be tight. Jessica was leading validation. She was smart, enthusiastic, ambitious. She had that youthful belief that speed equals competence, and I fed it. Jake approached me privately one afternoon. His voice was careful, too careful. Want to flag something in the validation docs, he said. My body tensed immediately, like his words were an attack. What's the issue? I asked. Temperature mapping only covers May through August, he said. We should get winter baseline data. I laughed once, sharp. Our environmental monitoring plan is adequate, I said. We're within compliance. Technically, yes, he said, but best practice is full year coverage, especially for sterile lines. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. Carol used to do it that way, he added, almost as if he couldn't stop himself. And I snapped. Carol isn't here anymore, I said. Everyone keeps comparing my decisions to Carol's like I need a template approved by somebody else. Jake's eyes narrowed slightly. Carol was a woman. Carol managed like a man, I said, constantly deferring to male engineers. That's internalized patriarchy, not leadership. Jake opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I'm just suggesting we add 2 months. You're suggesting I don't understand validation, I said to Chef. I have a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. This is my decision. He left without another word. That afternoon, he emailed me. Formal, documented. He CC'd his supervisor. He wrote about the temperature and mapping concern. He used phrases like risk mitigation and best practice. He wasn't rude. He was doing his job. I replied and CC'd Vanessa. I wrote, I don't appreciate male engineers constantly questioning my expertise. Your email implies I don't understand basic standards. This is a pattern, and I signed it with my full title. Dr. Sabi Raman, PhD. Vanessa called Jake in again. After that, Jake got quieter. Not because he agreed, because he learned the rules. Don't question Sabi. So when Tom asked in a meeting, are we doing 5 runs on sterility validation or 3? And Jessica answered 3. Tom hesitated. Usually we do 5 for new sterile lines, he said. I cut him off instantly. Tom, I said, why are you interrogating my team's decisions? I'm not. You're questioning Jessica's assessment in front of everyone, I said. If you have concerns, submit them in writing. Public questioning isn't acceptable. Priya nodded. Jessica stared at Tom like he'd insulted her. Tom leaned back and stayed quiet. Someone submitted an anonymous concern through the suggestion box about reviewing sterility protocols. At the next meeting, I addressed it. Someone submitted an anonymous concern, I said. I want to be clear. Bring concerns directly to me. Anonymous undermining is cowardly. Jessica added, it's probably one of the guys who can't handle women leading. Derek nodded. Anonymous complaints are bad faith. Jake and Tom exchanged looks. Message received. We moved forward. And yes, on paper we did well. We completed validation ahead of schedule. The CEO praised us. I got promoted to senior QC manager, overseeing 3 production lines. There was an all-hands meeting. Vanessa presented slides. 30% improvement in project timelines under new QC leadership, she said, with my picture on the screen. This is what happens when we empower women and dismantle gatekeeping. Standing ovation. My team cheered. Jake and Tom in the back didn't clap. I told myself, their loss. Then PharmTech won a massive contract with MedFirst hospital chain. 15 hospitals. $40 million. 3 years. The CEO called an executive meeting. Dr. Raman's QC division will be key to our success, he said. MedFirst needed first shipments by Q4, normally a 9-month timeline, 6 months if you were reckless. The CEO looked at me. Can we deliver? I didn't hesitate. Absolutely, I said. We've proven we can execute efficiently without sacrificing quality. Operations Director Paul tried to interject. 6 months is tight, he said. I smiled, and I heard my own voice become something I didn't recognize. Smooth, confident, dismissive. The old QC culture was slow because of excessive risk aversion, I said. We've proven speed doesn't mean compromise. The CEO nodded like I'd given him permission to dream. Contract signed. I gathered my expanded team. 12 people now. 9 women. 3 men. This is historic, I said. We're rewriting how QC works. We don't need male approval. We don't need endless questioning. Jessica raised her coffee. The old system kept women dependent on male experts, she said. Priya laughed. To not needing permission from the patriarchy. Everyone toasted. Kevin, a junior male engineer, looked uncomfortable but stayed quiet. I interpreted his silence as growth too. We implemented aggressive timelines, accelerated stability testing instead of real-time data windows, spot check environmental monitoring instead of longer baselines, 3-run sterility validation instead of 5. Every time someone hesitated, I said some version of don't second guess yourself. Trust the risk assessment. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Kevin spoke up once, nervous. I thought sterile products needed 5 runs. I looked at him and felt annoyance. Our risk assessment determined 3 is adequate, I said. Do you have evidence it's insufficient? No, he said quickly. Then trust the process, I said. This is what internalized bias looks like, assuming women's decisions aren't rigorous. Kevin went quiet. We hit milestones. We celebrated at a bar. 3 drinks in, I felt invincible. To proving we don't need men telling us we're doing it wrong, I said. Jessica clinked her glass. So much better without constant mansplaining. Priya laughed. Remember when Jake wanted a full year of temperature data? Everyone laughed, and deep down, a tiny voice whispered, what if Jake was right? But the room was warm with praise and agreement. And agreement can be intoxicating. That night, I called my mom. I was a little drunk. I wanted her to understand. I wanted someone from my old life to finally look at me with awe. Remember at Thanksgiving when Mark questioned me? I said. My mother paused. Honey, he was just making conversation. No, I said. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Subtle undermining. Well, she said gently, I'm proud of you. We just landed a $40 million contract, I said. We're revolutionizing QC. She smiled through the phone. I could hear it. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Are you going to tell Mark? I asked, another pause. Sabi, she said softly, your brother loves you. I felt anger flare again. I have to go, I said. I'm celebrating. I hung up. Jessica noticed my expression. Everything okay? Family stuff, I said. They don't get it. They will, Jessica said, when we prove women can lead better than men did. I toasted, and that little voice in my head, the one asking if I was too defensive, got quieter. Monday morning, 7:45 a.m. I'm barely at my desk when the call comes. FDA inspection team is here. Unannounced. For cause. My stomach dropped like an elevator cable snapped. 2 investigators set up in a conference room. 1 woman, 1 man, both senior. The woman introduced herself as Janet. She looked like she'd seen every lie a company could tell. Walk me through your sterility validation, Janet said. I straightened my posture, like posture could protect me. We completed a comprehensive 3-run validation, I said. Statistically sufficient. Janet's pen hovered. 3 runs, she repeated. Yes. She flipped open our SOP. Your SOP says 5 runs minimum for new sterile lines, she said. Where is the risk assessment documenting why you reduced it? I felt heat behind my eyes. We evaluated it collaboratively, I said. We determined. Show me the documentation, she said. I hesitated. Because the documentation was thin. Because we'd moved fast and told ourselves speed was courage. Janet turned to temperature mapping. This covers May through August, she said. Where is winter baseline? We determined summer was sufficient, I said. Based on what? She asked. Then she said something that made my mouth go dry. Your facility has documented HVAC variability issues, she said. That's exactly why seasonal data matters. My mind raced. How does she know that? Of course she knows that. It's in our history. She kept finding gaps, not small gaps, big ones, the kind you can't fill with confidence. That afternoon, Janet brought someone in on video. A woman appeared on the screen, older, early 50s, tired eyes. "This is Dr. Linda Carter," Janet said, QC director at MedFirst Hospitals. My heart started pounding so loud I could barely hear. Linda Carter didn't smile. "Can you describe the issues you've identified?" Janet asked. Linda didn't waste time. "We've identified stability concerns in 3 batches from PharmTech," she said. "Discoloration in vials, particulate matter in samples. We quarantined all product." My throat tightened. "How long has this been occurring?" Janet asked. 2 weeks, Linda said. "I contacted PharmTech. Dr. Raman assured me it was within acceptable variance. When I pressed for data, she became defensive." I opened my mouth. "That's not." Linda cut me off. "The data showed gaps in your validation large enough to drive a truck through," she said, voice cold. "I've been doing pharmaceutical QC since before you graduated high school. I know what proper validation looks like." My face burned. Linda's eyes didn't soften. "I reported to FDA because your QC manager was more concerned with defending her decisions than investigating patient safety," she said. The room spun. Janet pulled up email chains. She found Jake's email from months ago. She read my reply. The room felt like it shrank around my shame. "So your senior engineer raised concerns?" Janet said. "And you accused him of mansplaining?" "That's out of context," I said. "It's in context," Janet said. "He was doing quality engineering." She kept going. And then she said the sentence that changed everything. "Your company created an environment where quality engineers were afraid to do their jobs." By Wednesday, rumors were everywhere. An emergency all-hands meeting was called. The CEO stood on stage, trying to sound calm. "We're cooperating with FDA," he said. "Dr. Raman and her team have our complete support." Jake stood up from the back. "Do we have your support?" he asked. The room went silent. "Because 6 months ago, I raised these exact concerns," he said, "and I was threatened with termination." Murmurs. Heads turning. Tom stood. "Same," he said. "I documented issues and stayed quiet because I was told questioning Dr. Raman was hostile workplace behavior." Derek stood too. My stomach dropped. "I flagged concerns privately," Derek said. "I was told we needed to trust leadership." I stared at Derek like I didn't know him. My hands were shaking. I stood up. "This is absurd," I said. "The male engineers have been sabotaging me from day one." The room was silent. Jake spoke, calm. "Sabi," he said, "this isn't about STEM. This is about patient safety." My voice rose. "I was trying to create a safe environment," I said. "Women in STEM face constant undermining." Jake interrupted. "Sabi," he said, "don't mansplain patient safety to me." The words landed like a slap. And then I heard my own voice, high, strained, desperate. "I have a PhD," I said. "I spent years studying this field." Tom spoke quietly. "PhD doesn't replace GMP," he said. I turned to the CEO. "They're coordinating," I said. "Look at them. They planned this together." Vanessa touched my arm. "Sabi," she whispered, "maybe we should step outside." I yanked my arm away. "No," I said. "Everyone needs to hear this. This is a coordinated attack by men who couldn't handle a woman in authority." And as I said it, I saw the faces. Not anger, not agreement. Pity, embarrassment. Derek wouldn't look at me. That's when I knew I'd lost the room. After the meeting, I cornered Derek in the hallway. "You said you had my back," I said. Derek looked uncomfortable. "Sabi," he said, "I did support you, but when I raised concerns, you shut me down too." I felt something crack. "You documented everything," I said. He nodded slightly. "I had to," he said. "I knew you documented everything." My chest tightened. "You were building a case against me," I said. "I was protecting myself," he said quietly. "Look, I believe in supporting women in leadership, but when I saw validation gaps, I told you we should slow down. You said I was being risk-averse like the old culture. You made it clear that questioning you meant I wasn't a real ally." He paused. "So I went along," he said. "Publicly." "And privately?" I asked. He swallowed. "Privately, I protected myself," he said, "because I'm not going down for decisions I warned you about." He walked away, and I stood alone in the hallway, trembling. Thursday, Linda Carter arrived in person. She met with executives, legal, Vanessa, me. She sat across from me like she was the judge and I was the defendant. "I don't care about your internal politics," Linda said. "I care that you approved product that put patients in 15 hospitals at risk." I tried to defend myself. "The product met specifications," I said. "It met abbreviated specifications you made up," she said, "not industry standards." Vanessa tried to help. Dr. Carter, Vanessa said, we need to consider broader workplace dynamics. Linda turned her head slowly. Are you the HR director? She asked. Yes, Vanessa said, voice tight. Then you're part of the problem, Linda said. You punished engineers for doing their jobs because it didn't align with your politics. She turned back to me. I'm a woman, she said. I've been in this industry 28 years. I've dealt with actual sexism, not someone asking legitimate technical questions. Tears rose in my eyes. You don't understand what it's like to constantly have men. Linda cut me off. I understand exactly, she said. And I also understand patient safety comes before my ego. She stood. MedFirst is terminating the contract, she said. We're pursuing damages, and I recommended FDA escalate. She walked out. Friday, 4 p.m., HR. Legal. CEO. Effective immediately. Terminated for cause. Multiple GMP violations. Failure to respond to quality concerns. Creating an environment that prevented oversight. I threatened discrimination. Legal counsel was calm. You're welcome to pursue that, he said. We have extensive documentation of technical failures. I looked at the CEO. The male engineers sabotaged me, I said. The CEO shook his head. They did their jobs, he said. You punished them for it. I looked at Vanessa. You'll back me up, I said. Vanessa didn't meet my eyes. I'm being reassigned, she said softly. And that was that. I cleaned out my office in silence. Jessica and Priya hugged me, crying. This is so unfair, they whispered. I wanted to believe them. But doubt crept in like cold water. In the parking lot, I saw Tom talking to an interim QC director, an older guy from a sister facility. Tom glanced at me. No sympathy, just relief. The next months were brutal. Dozens of applications. Silence. A few interviews that ended abruptly. Some companies didn't say anything, but you could feel it. The shadow of farm tech. Eventually, a smaller company offered me a lifeline. Biogenics Pharmaceuticals. In the interview, I told them a cleaned-up version. Toxic culture, I said. Hostile male engineers. I tried to implement modern quality approaches and faced sabotage. The hiring manager, a woman in her 40s, nodded sympathetically. We value diverse leadership, she said. I got the job. I updated my LinkedIn. Excited to join Biogenics as QC manager. After experiencing a toxic workplace culture at my previous role, grateful for a fresh start where women's expertise is respected. The comments flooded in again. You deserved better. Their loss. Keep fighting. I didn't mention the inspection details. I didn't mention Linda Carter's words. Because the story I told myself was simpler, I tried to change a broken system. The system destroyed me. At Biogenics, I brought Jessica and Priya with me. They understood what really happened, I told myself. They were loyal. They were my proof that I wasn't the problem. 2 months in, things felt good. No Jake, no Tom, no constant pushback. My new team respected me. And then I noticed Sarah, a junior engineer, 27. She avoided eye contact. She went quiet when I entered the lab. During one-on-ones, she'd close her laptop quickly like she was hiding something. I told myself, not paranoia. Experience. One afternoon, she stepped away for lunch and left her computer unlocked. I stared at the screen. I hesitated. I knew I shouldn't, but I told myself I had a responsibility. I opened her drafts, and my blood went cold. An email to someone at my former company. Subject, question about former colleague. She was asking what happened at FarmTech. She was asking if the rumors were true. She wrote that I seemed defensive when questioned. She wrote that validation seemed rushed. I felt rage flood my body like a drug. Not because she asked questions, because she went around me, because she didn't trust me, because it meant the same story was starting again. I waited until end of day. Sarah, I said, can we talk in my office? She looked like she was about to faint. When the door closed, I kept my voice calm, controlled, professional. I saw your email draft, I said. She froze. You went behind my back, I said, to contact someone from my previous company, someone involved in a toxic situation. She started crying. I just had questions, she said. Some decisions seem really fast, and I was scared to question you directly. Scared? I repeated. The word hit my ego like a hammer. I've created the most supportive culture in this department, I said. If you felt you couldn't approach me, that says more about your internal biases than my leadership. I'm sorry, she whispered. Did you send it? I asked. She hesitated. Just this morning. My stomach dropped. I fired her that afternoon. HR backed me up under breach of confidentiality and insubordination. Sarah left crying. Jessica and Priya saw her in the hallway. What happened? Jessica asked. She coordinated with someone from FarmTech to undermine me, I said. Priya's eyes widened. That's insane, she said. They're starting the same campaign they did before, I said. I didn't say Sarah only sent one email. I let it sound bigger, because big conspiracies are easier to fight than small truths. That night, Sarah posted on LinkedIn, was let go for asking safety questions. If you're a young woman in pharma, document everything. It exploded. Thousands of likes. Professional groups sharing it. Comments mentioning FarmTech. Links circulating about the FDA inspection. My past wasn't behind me. It was hunting me. 2 weeks later, executives called me in. We're bringing in an outside consultant to audit our quality systems, the CEO said. Routine, someone added quickly. I nodded, trying to look calm. Then they said the name. Dr. Linda Carter. The room tilted. I kept my voice steady. You know her? The CEO asked. We've crossed paths, I said. Monday morning, Linda Carter walked into the conference room, same assessing eyes, same calm authority. She looked at me like she already knew the ending. Dr. Raman, she said flatly, we meet again. The executives looked confused. You two know each other? Someone asked. Linda didn't dramatize. Dr. Raman's work at FarmTech came to my attention during an FDA investigation, she said. I'm sure she remembers. I forced a smile. That situation was misrepresented, I said. I'm here to evaluate systems, Linda said, not litigate the past. And then she began. Her questions were simple, deadly. Walk me through your sterility validation approach, she said. We use a 3-run protocol, I said. Industry standard. Linda tilted her head slightly. Industry standard is 5 runs for new sterile lines, she said mildly. Show me the risk assessment documenting why you reduced it. I deflected. It's in the validation plan, I said. I reviewed the VMP, she said. There's no formal risk assessment, just a statement. The room went quiet. It happened again and again. A question, a gap, a note. By the end of the week, I realized something. This wasn't an audit. It was an autopsy. And I was still alive. I became paranoid. I started seeing patterns everywhere. Every whisper felt like a plot. Every email felt like a threat. And I did something I will not describe in detail because I am not here to teach anyone how to do wrong. But I will tell you the truth of the moment. I believed I was defending myself. I believed that if I could remove the people questioning me, I would finally be safe. For a brief, intoxicating moment, it worked. There was a public scandal at my former employer. Biogenics postponed Linda's audit. Executives praised my loyalty. They offered me a promotion. I went home, opened wine, and told myself I won. 2 weeks later, I was preparing my first presentation as Director of Quality Systems. A big meeting. Board members, executives, my department. I stood at the front of the room with slides about integrity and innovation. I opened my mouth to speak, and the doors opened. 2 federal agents walked in. The air turned to ice. Dr. Sabi Raman? One asked. My mouth went dry. Yes, I said. You're under arrest. Time slowed. People didn't move. Jessica's face crumpled. Priya covered her mouth. No one spoke. The agent listed charges: false reporting, evidence tampering, trespass, identity fraud. My mind screamed, this is impossible. This is a mistake, I said. I didn't do anything. The agent's voice didn't change. We have evidence, he said. Security footage, records, witness statements. I looked at my team like they could save me. They couldn't. I was handcuffed in front of everyone. As they walked me out, I saw Linda Carter in the parking lot. She wasn't smiling. She looked tired, disappointed. Our eyes met, and she said quietly, not triumphant, not cruel, I didn't have to do anything. You destroyed yourself. I tried to speak, but the only sound that came out of me was raw disbelief. They put me in the car. Through the window, I saw people pulling out phones, recording. My fall became content. My trial was fast. Evidence stacked like bricks. Every denial I made sounded weaker than the silence of the facts. Jake testified. He looked older, tired, not satisfied. The prosecutor asked him if he coordinated with me. No, Jake said. I haven't spoken to her since she left. He paused. A colleague asked me what happened at FarmTech, he said. I told the truth. That was it. No conspiracy. No mastermind. Just truth. During a break, Jake approached me in the hallway. My lawyer stiffened. Sabi, Jake said quietly. I glared. Come to gloat? No, he said. I came to say I'm sorry it ended like this. You destroyed me? I hissed. Jake's eyes didn't harden. They softened. That's the tragedy, he said. We didn't destroy you. You did this to yourself. He swallowed. At FarmTech, we wanted you to slow down, he said. To listen. To accept that quality control means being questioned. That's the job. He looked down the hallway, then back at me. You interpreted help as attack, he said, and now you're here. He walked away. Tom was in the hallway too. He didn't approach. He just shook his head and left. Sentencing day, the judge was a woman, late 50s. No sympathy in her eyes. Dr. Raman, she said, you had every advantage: education, opportunity, a promising career. She paused. When faced with professional accountability, you chose criminal misconduct rather than accepting feedback. I tried to speak. Your Honor, I was being targeted. The judge raised a hand. I've reviewed the record, she said, including the FDA findings at FarmTech. The pattern is clear. When you face criticism, you escalate. You blame. You attack. She leaned forward slightly. In pharmaceutical quality, being questioned is the mechanism that protects patients. She said the sentence that felt like it split me open. You were not punished for being a woman. You were punished for refusing competence accountability. Sentence: 18 months. Fine. Permanent ban from the industry. My career ended with a gavel. 12 months later, I got out early for good behavior. A parole officer placed me in a call center job. I applied everywhere anyway. Different names, slightly altered credentials, rejections. Every time. One morning in a coffee shop, my laptop open, another rejection on the screen. Someone sat across from me. Dr. Linda Carter. She looked the same, calm, controlled. Are you here to gloat? I asked. No, she said. She slid a folder across the table. I'm here because you keep applying to pharmaceutical companies under fake names, she said. My blood froze. How do you... I consult for most of them, she said. They send me questionable applications. Yours keeps coming up. I stared at the folder like it was a coffin. You're blackballing me, I said. I'm protecting patients, she said. That's not blackballing, that's reference checking. She stood. You could have been good, she said. You're intelligent, hardworking, but you couldn't handle being questioned. She paused at the edge of the table. And in pharmaceutical QC, she said being questioned is the entire job. She walked out. My phone buzzed. Parole officer? Interview tomorrow, 9 a.m. Call center. I closed my laptop. And this is the part people don't like. Because they want a moral ending. They want me to say, I learned, I changed, I regret everything, I regret what I did, I regret the harm, I regret the waste. But if I'm honest, there are nights I still wake up hearing my own voice in that Thanksgiving dining room. Mark asking me a normal question. Me turning it into a battlefield. And I realize something that makes my stomach twist. I didn't start losing at the FDA inspection. I didn't start losing at FarmTech. I started losing the moment I decided every question was an attack. Because once you believe that, you stop listening. And when you stop listening in a world where listening is safety, you don't just fail, you become dangerous. And the most terrifying part? For a long time, I still believed I was the hero. Even while I was destroying everything. My name is Dr. Sabrina Raman. And that's the story I wish someone had forced me to hear before I ruined my life. Because the truth is simple. Brutal. And it doesn't care about your title. In quality control, you can be brilliant, you can be progressive, you can be celebrated. But if you can't be questioned, you don't belong near the gate. Not because people hate you, because patients can't afford your ego. And neither could I. If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.